Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS news for Wednesday, January 12. The 2021-2022 budget has been increased by $25.8 billion. The figure was tabled in the second supplementary estimates by Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clarke in the House of Representatives yesterday. This increase brings the overall budget to $893 billion, which only affects the recurrent side. The capital budget remains unchanged.
Recurrent programs at $296 billion, above the line $276 billion, and below the line $19.99 billion. Capital at $54.2 billion, and public debt service at $297.7 billion. The additional expenditure will be financed through $11.2 billion in additional revenue flows, $5.3 billion in additional loan receipts, and utilization of an additional $9.2 billion from prior year cash resources.
Of the $25.8 billion, $8.2 billion will fund non-debt recurring expenditures, while $17.6 billion will go towards debt servicing. Dr. Clarke says provisions are also being made to pay wage increases for public sector workers, support the COVID-19 care package for the vulnerable, and address compensation for healthcare workers. The additional funds will also cover premium payment for the catastrophe fund and maturing guaranteed debt of the National Water Commission and the Central Wastewater Treatment Company.
These represent the major adjustments that have necessitated the second supplementary estimates. However, there are a number of other expenses that we're seeking to address through the supplementary, such as additional requirements for the Ministry of National Security and the police, support to the National Solid Waste Management Authority, and bank charges related to the operations of the PATH program.
The Ministry of Education will be rolling out its recently announced Yard to Yard Find the Child initiative soon. The program will identify, locate, and re-engage the roughly 40% of students who have not reported to in-person or online schools since the start of the new term.
This initiative will operate for 3 months, January to March 2022. Through this initiative, 580 youth workers under the HOPE program and 108 social workers will be engaged to complement the school-based teams of 478 public schools island-wide to go yard to yard to help to find our students and to re-engage them with their schools so that they can continue their learning.
The minister was speaking in Parliament on Tuesday. She says the ministry will also be rolling out a Family Connect app to support data collection and the reporting processes. All public schools are now engaged in the re-verification process of their unaccounted for students.
The ministry is currently in the process of exporting data of over 15,000 unaccounted students submitted by 294 schools into this app, and we will begin to work with these families immediately. We will be taking an interministerial approach to respond to the needs of these targeted families.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Andrew Holness says government is making every effort to ensure that the school environment is as safe as possible for students and teachers. While acknowledging that the return to in-person instruction is not without risks, Mr. Holness says remaining home has had a devastating impact on learning.
Of all the negative impacts of the pandemic, this is the one I worry about the most. The learning loss to our children is incalculable, and we cannot afford to keep our children out of school any longer.
Even as measures are in place to safeguard students at school, Mr. Holness is imploring parents and guardians to closely monitor their children and keep them home if they are unwell.
This is the only way we will be able to keep the infection rate down in our schools.
The current COVID-19 containment measures have been extended for another 2 weeks, until January 27. Prime Minister Andrew Holness made the disclosure Tuesday during a sitting of the House of Representatives.
This means that the curfew hours will remain at 10 p.m. nightly to 5 a.m. the following morning until 5 a.m. on January 28, 2022. All the other measures will also remain unchanged.
Mr. Holness says the measures are in line with government's gradual reopening of the economy, indicating that the restrictions would have been eased had it not been for the current fourth wave of COVID-19 infections. The infection positivity rate now stands at 58.6%, while hospitalizations are also increasing. Pointing to the disproportionate number of unvaccinated being hospitalized for the coronavirus, Mr. Holness is appealing to citizens to get vaccinated.
Get vaccinated, strengthen your immune system, follow the protocols, and let us all learn to live with this virus. That is the only way we will defeat it.
26% of Jamaicans have so far received at least one dose of a vaccine. And finally, Prime Minister Andrew Holness is reiterating that the restructuring of his cabinet was done in part to increase efficiency and properly execute the people's mandate. The reconstituted cabinet includes a Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, as well as a new Attorney General in former Contractor General Dr. Derek McCoy.
And what we have sought to do in restructuring the government is to ensure that the legal, constitutional, and justice arm is so structured that it can have a greater rate of efficiency and turnover in terms of the development of legislation, the passage of legislation, the review of legislation, the necessary reforms that have to be done, the giving of advice, so that all other ministries of government can see an acceleration in their pace of delivering on the mandate that the people gave us in September 2020.
The new cabinet and Attorney General were sworn in by Governor General Sir Patrick Allen at a virtual ceremony on Tuesday. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.